This is the Haulin Assets podcast, where we show you how to start and run your own trucking company. Ever wanted to go out on your own? Follow Chris as he goes through the highs and lows of running on his own authority. Welcome, everybody, to the Haulin Assets podcast. This is episode number 66. Chris, welcome.
It's good to be here.
I'm glad you are here. I am Craig, your host, and today we're talking about November financials. Now, this episode is going to be kind of backwards because a lot of times when we get listener comments and questions, we kind of save those till the end. But in this case, we're actually going to get to the numbers after a comment that somebody left on Facebook, because you wanted to address that, Chris, right?
Yeah, it's a comment that kind of got me thinking a little bit, so we're going to talk.
Absolutely. Now, before we do that, of course, I want to remind everybody to go to haulinassetsllc.com and check out the full show notes for this and other episodes, especially with these financial episodes. You want to go check that out because you can see the numbers that we're talking about. Chris shares the balance sheet every single month, the profit and loss statement, as the business has gone on. So if you want to see the concrete examples of what we're talking about, please go to haulinassetsllc.com, and also leave a review on whatever service you're listening to us on. If you can leave a review there, please do. 5 stars, or forget that you ever heard it. Don't give us 2 stars, because that's just mean. Why would you do that? All right. And the last thing I'll mention is find us on Facebook. That's another place you can go engage with us. You can ask us questions, make comments like the one we're going to talk about today, right? Because this came through on Facebook, right, Chris?
It did, yeah. And before we even get into that, you going through this and talking just now kind of sparked something in me, something I've been thinking a little bit about lately. Business is strange, and it's mirrors a lot of life. In life you have ups and downs. You've got, smooth periods and rough periods. And it seems like, Haulin Assets for the last little while, both the company and the podcast, we've kind of been, I would almost say, I kind of hate to admit this a little bit, maybe in a little bit of a lull, because there haven't been any big significant changes. We've just kind of been motoring along for the last, several months, trying to navigate the new world we live in with the coronavirus pandemic and everything. And so it's just kind of been just moving along, not any significant changes. Well, that's going to change over the next couple of months.
Oh, yeah?
I've got some episodes coming up that I think are a little bit more impactful that will be good. We're going to see a second truck coming online here before too long. So that's going to be a big change in the financials. That'll be fun to kind of see as we add a second truck. And the whole process is taking me a little bit longer than I would normally like it to, but we're starting to see some movement on it. And, I'll start sharing that in the podcast over the next little while, and hopefully have the second truck up and going before too long. To make a long story short, getting the truck was easy. A trailer has been more of a challenge, and but I've made some progress on that. So we'll be talking about those kind of things and a few more other things in a little bit. So I think what I'm saying is I think we're going to kind of get out of this flat spot and start climbing again.
Ladies and gentlemen, a professional tease. Yeah. So stay tuned. Right
there we go.
Don't touch that dial.
It's almost like I'm getting good at this, Craig.
Well, yeah, that's right. Now we just need to get me behind the wheel of a truck. We'll make a podcaster out of you and a trucker out of me.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that.
as long as I don't forget to put gas in the truck, right, Chris?
Oh yeah, there you go. You're already screwing things up.
All right, Chris, go on with this Facebook comment. I want to hear about this.
All right, so the Facebook comment comes from Steve Goss, I'm thinking is how you pronounce that.
Sure.
If I'm pronouncing your last name wrong, Steven, I'm terribly sorry. I've never been good at spelling, reading, or enunciating, so don't take that too personally. But anyway, he goes on to say, there are unfortunately a lot of dip working in the trucking industry, and a lot of them who are college educated don't have their commercial driver's license, yet they think they are so gifted. And, this isn't a problem just to the trucking industry. I mean, this is something that goes...
Welcome to life.
Welcome to life. Every business, every sector I've ever been involved in or seen, you've got that same kind of thing out there. And oftentimes, I've got a college education, and the college education does provide you something. It provides you a lot of knowledge, right? It gives you a lot of information. And in my humble opinion, knowledge, unless you're playing Jeopardy, a lot of the times is basically useless, right?
Well, unless you have experience to go with it.
Well, that's where the next thing comes in. The knowledge itself doesn't do much for you. There's a difference between knowledge and wisdom, right? Wisdom is the ability to kind of take the knowledge that you've got and be able to make sound judgments, be able to interpret that knowledge and use it effectively and efficiently. And I think that's where a lot of people, we get a college education, we puff our chests out, we think we're so smart, we think we're so good. And a lot of the times we aren't, because all we have is knowledge. We don't necessarily have the ability to apply that knowledge. And that ability to apply the knowledge, typically you gain through experience, and that's where the wisdom comes in. And for some people, some people get the knowledge and never really gain the wisdom. But this is what Stephen's kind of talking about. There's a lot of guys out there that think they know what they're doing. They have a lot of knowledge, but they just plain don't know how to apply it. And gaining that wisdom and gaining that experience is something you can learn, whether it's through this podcast or through experience. The podcast, I think, can help with that. But you've got to realize in life, you've got to have more than just knowledge. You've got to be able to use that knowledge effectively and focus on using that knowledge.
Yeah, I feel like Stephen is taking direct aim at us, Chris.
Is it me or is it you?
What
you think it's both of us?
Are you college educated, Chris?
I am college educated.
Yeah, me too.
Well, so maybe it is us. Yeah. Sorry, Stephen, if we've disappointed you. We think we're what was it? So gifted. We think we are. Yeah. Well,
no, I take your point. I take your point. The difference between knowledge and wisdom, and so I've often said in many jobs that I've had, there are people who got their degrees and there are people who don't, and there are benefits and advantages either way if you do it right. If you get that knowledge from college, hey, how about that?
Oh, wow.
Then you do have more knowledge to work with if you know how to apply it. And if you don't go get a college education, then you might have a 4-year head start on somebody who did as far as getting out there and getting experience. But, you can do it right and do it wrong either way.
You can. And I don't think a college degree is necessary in anything. I think you can I think it's helpful, but I think you can overcome it. And I think a college degree in and of itself is not something that's going to make you successful. There's a whole holistic approach to all of this. And I think one thing even more important than that, and, I see this in the entrepreneur, business owner world all the time, is you've got to be not only do you need knowledge, not only do you need wisdom, but you have to have an ability to execute. And I would argue that skill set and that drive right there, that ability to execute, is probably more important than either the knowledge or the wisdom. I've seen a lot of people that myself included, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I've learned things and gained experience over time that has given me that ability, but I've had to work for my knowledge and wisdom. It hasn't come naturally to me, but I'm really good at executing. And I think I've seen a lot of people out there that, aren't the smartest and aren't the most wise, but they've got a really good ability to execute. And I think that's as important or more important than anything else out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Anything else you want to talk about on that subject?
No, I think it's time to get off the soapbox. But Stephen, thanks for the comment on Facebook. It really kind of got me thinking, and that's an important thing.
Yeah, as long as it wasn't about us, Stephen.
I hope not.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's talk about some financials. We're recording this in the middle of December, and so we're talking about November financials. And Chris, this is, as you have harped on for many episodes in a row now, this is the good season. This is the busy season. Rates are better. On average, they tend to be better. There are more loads to be had, and take advantage, right? So, how'd you do in November?
Not good.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Not so great.
All right, well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Yeah. This has been episode 66.
Well, we're trying to stay real here. We're trying to be transparent. November was not the greatest month in the world, and it was kind of, to be honest with you, a mix of a perfect storm. There were a lot of things that kind of happened that made it not the greatest month in the world. But with that being said, to cut to the chase, we lost $2,711 $17.11.
Oh man!
And there were a lot of factors that went into that. So let's go kind of through our normal numbers that we do, and then we'll kind of dive into the why did that happen?
Okay.
Why did we end up losing money in November, which should have been one of our best months.
Okay, so we usually start by talking about how far the truck went in the month. So how many miles did it run in November?
7,490. And if you're following,
I kind of feel like we just got our explanation.
Yeah, that's a big part of it right there.
So usually we're doing 10,000, give or take.
Yeah, 10,000 plus. I mean, 10,000 is usually kind of on the low end of a normal month.
Right.
And so we're obviously well below that.
Okay. So call it 7,500 total miles run.
Yep.
And then how was Deadhead this month?
Deadhead was actually really, really good. Under 4%, 295 miles. So that's a really good month as far as Deadhead. So Deadhead obviously wasn't the problem.
Okay. And total revenue then?
$14,625.31.
Okay, that doesn't sound like a horrendous number.
It's not a horrendous number, but we're usually shooting for 20,000 plus. So it's obviously down a little bit.
All right. So with the total number of miles that the truck ran, I expect the days on the road is lower.
It's going to be, yeah. So our all-in rate per mile was $1.95. So obviously that includes Deadhead, which $1.95 we can make money at that. And it's interesting. I see a lot of comments on Facebook, on some of our social media platforms where people say you've got to be like $2, $2.50 plus a mile to even be able to break even and make money. And I don't know where these people are getting their numbers from, because that's just totally not the case. Maybe, I would even say if you're buying a brand new truck that's 150,000 miles, if you need $2.50 a mile to break even, you're not doing something right.
Well, if there's one thing I know about you, Chris, it's that money is important and you keep track of your money. I mean, we have the joke about the extra penny. You always track that extra penny from your 0.01% savings account, right?
Yeah.
And so it could just be the case that, hey, if you're pulling in $2.50 as your average rate per mile, then you can afford to be a little more wasteful and still break even. So congratulations, but you don't have to get there if you're a little more careful, a little more knowledgeable about where your money's going and what you're doing with it, right?
Yeah, our break even has traditionally been $1.80 or less. Kind of fuel factors into that number, so it can cause it to give or take 10 cents a mile.
Yeah.
But yeah, you shouldn't have expenses that high, especially if you're an owner operator. You shouldn't have a whole lot of overhead. $2.50 a mile. If you need that to break even, you're doing something wrong.
Good luck to you.
Yeah, you're not going to make it.
Okay, so with $1.95 per mile, and you ran 7,500 miles. Okay, so the problem was that the truck wasn't running. Was there an issue with the truck then?
There was another issue with the truck. Yeah, the truck had. It actually had several things that needed to be taken care of. A few of them were things that I've kind of been tracking and just decided to knock them all out at once. But the biggest thing was that we had a turbo issue. The turbo didn't go bad, but there was a part of the turbo. I can't even, to be honest with you, remember exactly what it was, but it went bad. And I don't know what was going on with the shops in Utah at the time that I brought it in, but we brought it in on the 16th of November, and that's when it hit the shop. And because it was a turbo issue, I'm still under warranty. I have to take it to either, my only two options are the Kenworth dealership or the Peterbilt dealership, since it's a PACCAR engine. And the Kenworth place is always backed up pretty much. I mean, it's always several days to get in there, and they were almost like a week out. And the Peterbilt was like 3 or 4 days out. So to make a long story short, it had to sit for like 3 or 4 days before they even able to look at it. And by the time they got the parts, got it all repaired and everything, it was around the 24th, which is right before Thanksgiving. I wasn't going to make Mike go back out on the road right before Thanksgiving. So he didn't actually go out until the 27th of November. So it was literally off the road for 11 days.
Wow. Okay. So that'll do it.
Yeah. So again, it was a lot of factors that caused that to happen. But then really what was the difference between the biggest thing that was the difference between making a profit this in November and not was the fact that he started on the 27th. He got a load. It was a really good load. It was over $5,000 in revenue, but that load delivered on the 1st of December. So all that $5,000 was recognized in December instead of November. If we would have delivered it a day earlier, that extra $5,000 would have turned a $27,000 or $2,700 loss into almost a $2,700 profit. So, that kind of thing makes a difference. And
And so this is a good example of having some perspective and not living month to month. You want to track your month to month numbers, but you don't get wrapped up in, oh my gosh, there's a minus in front of my number this month. We're doomed. It could just be the case that, hey, you know what? Sometimes the dates don't align quite right, and next month is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
So that, presumably.
It should be. I mean, December should be a pretty decent month. And so that $5,000 swing that hurts November will benefit December. So it should hopefully make for a pretty decent month in December.
Theory for you, Chris. You said that the shops were all full up. They're booked for days. This is mid-November. Are there guys taking their trucks in for maintenance before the mega Christmas push?
I mean, that could have been it, because I know I had another thing that I was talking to when I picked it up and talking to the Peterbilt guys. It seemed like they had mostly worked through most of that backlog and they weren't as backed up as they were. So I don't know exactly what was causing it. I just know, both. And I'd actually talked to a couple other shops that couldn't do that repair, but maybe could have done some of the other stuff I needed done, and they were all backed up too. So it seemed like it was across, at least in Utah, everything was backed up for a couple weeks.
That's really interesting. Okay, so the truck was off the road for 11 days, which screwed with your November, but December will look a little bit better. But let's talk about what actually happened to the truck. What was going on? Why did you need to take it in the first place? You mentioned a turbo.
So there was a turbo issue. So let's talk a little bit, kind of going into a little bit more of the details of the profit and loss statement.
Oh, okay.
So, and this is going to come along with the repairs. So I did in November $1,148.49 of maintenance, and I think all of that maintenance, if I remember right, was tires. If not all of it, the vast majority of it. I had to put four new drive tires on the truck. That was an expected thing to happen. I knew that was coming. And in fact, I actually ended up replacing those maybe a little bit earlier than I would have. Like if it was in the summertime, I would have kept those tires on for probably another 20,000 miles. But going into the winter, the tread was kind of right on the border. I didn't want Mike driving around with
an unsafe vehicle.
Practically bald, a set of an axle worth of almost bald drive tires. So ended up replacing those for safety reasons. And then on top of that regular maintenance stuff, there was $5,509.69 of repairs.
Oh, wow.
And so the turbo was covered under warranty, but I had there's a coolant manifold on the truck that has some pipes that had corroded, and one of the pipes had actually broken and caused a big coolant leak. So we ended up having to get that replaced. I don't know that every truck has this particular manifold, but my T680 that Mike drives has it's a little bit on the higher end side. So it's got a heating system for the fuel tank. It's got a heating system for a few other things. It's that manifold that kind of controls that, had to be replaced. Let's see what else was there. I've got a list here. So that coolant module, there was an ABS system that broke. The fan on the truck, the coolant fan on the truck, a lot of cars, the cooling fan runs continuously. Well, the truck, it kind of turns on and off as it's needed. And there's an air mechanism that engages it and disengages it. And that had a leak in it, and that whole thing had to be replaced. And, I think we talked about this, the airbag that needed to get replaced.
Again?
Well,
there's an issue with it again?
No, but the actual payment came out like on the 1st of November. Is when it actually hit the bank
Once
account.
Again, the dates are messing with you.
All the dates. So that's part of that $5,509. So just a lot of things happened all at once as far as maintenance and repairs goes. And
I was ready for you to go on an epic rant about that airbag, and you're going to go burn down the place that fixed it.
If that thing goes out again, it's not going to go out again. It got fixed right this time. Well,
that's good. All right, so that's a crazy amount of stuff. $5,500 in repairs.
$55 in repairs and 11, a little over 11. So it was almost $6,650 in repairs and maintenance.
Man, so
I'm sure that's probably almost double the most I've ever spent in the month. In those two categories.
Just going to say. Yeah. So that is, it's almost a miracle that you escaped November only having lost $2,700.
It really is.
So that kind of goes to show, like you were saying, the rate per mile at a $1.95. Like, sure, if you'd been at 250, it would have been better. But I guess my point is, hey, that's still pretty good. That's still pretty good for the amount of repairs and maintenance you had to do. $1.95 got you to, only a $2,700 loss for the month.
It could have been a lot worse, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So give me a summary then. What have we learned from this? I'm trying to pull a lesson out of this, Chris, other than, sometimes the calendar messes with you.
Yeah. So that's a good way to put this. And one of my favorite quotes, is gonna kind of paraphrase it because I'm just trying to pull it out of thin air, off the top of my head, is something along the lines of, there's nothing wrong with failure as long as you learn a lesson from it. And obviously November is not necessarily a failure, but anytime you come across something hard in life or a challenge in life, you should always strive to learn from it and learn from that experience. And it always makes you better. And when you do fail on something, it's not a sunk cost. It's something that you can learn from and ultimately make you better and result in better success in the future. And so I think that's one of the things you kind of learn from a month like this is you kind of take a step back and say, okay, what can I learn from it? What do I need to take from this challenge? And so I think there's really two things here that we need to think about. So one is I'm really more than ever thinking really hard about ever buying a truck with an engine that cannot be serviced by a wide array of shops.
Okay, so this engine has to go to...
It has to go to a PACCAR, a place that can PACCAR service PACCAR engines, which is really either a Peterbilt dealership or a Kenworth dealership. You can't take it to a third-party dealership and have them work on it. PACCAR hasn't released the computer software to everybody to be able to go in and pull the diagnostics on the engines. So that's the unfortunate thing about PACCAR engines. We can argue day in and day out whether you like them or not. It's kind of a Ford, Chevy, Dodge thing. Yeah, everybody's got their personal preferences. There's a lot of good things to be said about the PACCAR engine, but the thing that's really I have a hard time with, and I think probably most people do, is just the fact that you're super limited on shops you can take it to. And so, if the two shops that in the state that you can take it to are chock full, then you're in trouble. So
this, talking about Ford versus Dodge versus whatever else, it's like going and buying the Jaguar. Yeah, sweet car, bro. And now you have one place that you can go get it serviced.
Yeah, yep, and they're a month out.
Right.
So yeah, that's tough. So I think if for everybody out there listening, that's something that should be on the high end of the considerations that you're thinking about. Because especially as an owner operator, you don't really have a whole lot of pull with shops because you're a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 truck guy. They've got bigger clients that they may have some leverage and some teeth, and you just really don't. And so the more options you have, the better off you're going to be.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. Anything else that you want to pull out of this?
I bet you can think of the last one. I bet you can guess what I'm going to say on this last one.
I bet I can.
And I feel like I haven't said it for a long time.
Save your money, kids.
Save your money. This is another one of those times where you don't want to be spending every last dime that you've got. You've got to save because you're going to have months like this when all of a sudden a bunch of unexpected expenses come together all at once, and you don't want to be putting yourself in a position where you get desperate and you've got to go to less desirable options. And if you've got the money in the bank one way or another, you can make the payments, and it's still sick to see that money go out. You don't like to see that much money leave your bank account, but you know what? You've got the money and you can make it happen.
And there you go. All right. Save your money. Man, it's the recurring theme on Haulin Assets.
It's probably about the most important thing an owner operator can do is make sure that they've
keep track of that money. Well, I mean, we kind of talked about it in this episode, right? You don't have to make $2.50 a mile if you're keeping track of your expenses and your cash flow.
You're not being frivolous, and you're not spending money on stuff that you shouldn't, and the money that you've got, you're saving. And you're not going out and buying that your dream pickup truck right off the bat. That kind of thing will come with time, but you don't want to do that until you've got a little bit of a nest egg.
And you know what, folks? This is the wisdom that Chris is spitting out right now. This is the wisdom that comes with a college education, right, Chris?
No, I've seen lots of college educated people that are not smart with their money. That comes with experience.
There you go. Okay,
yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Well, do we feel good on this one,
I feel
Chris?
good, yeah.
All right, so we're going to be back with another episode. Chris, you have professionally teased some great future episodes. Do you think we'll have any more this year? Or are we moving into 2021?
I'm hoping to have another one this year. There's a chance we might not. It's going to depend on a bunch of different factors. I've still got a handful of things I'm working on. I'm hoping that the next episode I've got some really good plans for. And so if all of that can come together, I'd like to launch it, in that last week of the month, but we'll see what happens.
Okay. Well, either way, we appreciate you listening to this episode. We hope you are subscribed and look forward to future episodes coming out as well. And we hope you visit us at haulinassetsllc.com and or Facebook. And you can make comments in either location. We love to get those. And we love to respond to them, especially in these financials episodes. It's nice to have some listener comments to go through, and we love hearing from you and how the show is affecting you and your business, what you're learning. Yeah, we love all that. So hope to hear from you. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we will see you next time.
See you next week.